All right, we are live.
Can they hear us?
They can hear us.
I like that Ryan and I got the black shirt memo, and you went above and beyond, Alan. I didn't even know you had a Captain America costume, by the way.
I did.
Yeah.
Did you? When did you go as Captain America?
This is, well, I want you to guess, which Captain America costume is this?
It's not Endgame. This is Civil War.
Technically, this suit appears in Endgame.
Does it really?
Yes, twice.
Ah, shoot.
It's the 2012 Avengers suit.
And the beard?
The beard is just me.
Oh.
That's all me. That's all me, baby.
That's all you. Yeah, Steve Rogers wishes, right?
Yeah. I am Steve Rogers.
I mean, you've got the hair right now for who is it? Secret Agent or American Agent or the
U.S. Agent. Yeah.
Yeah.
U.S. Agent. Yeah.
Oh. Thank you.
You could be in the Thunderbolts, the best future movie.
The Thunderbolts asterisk. Like that's.
What's the asterisk?
They haven't said what that means yet, but that's the official title is Thunderbolts asterisk.
Okay, Marvel. All right.
Yeah.
I see you.
Shall we begin, gentlemen?
Let us commence.
All right, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Why not?
hey everybody, welcome to You Have to Watch This podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devon.
And today we're going to be talking about Ryan's pick, the 2024 film, The First Omen, a film that neither Devon and I have ever seen. Because each week on this show, we like to make each other watch movies. At least one of us has never seen. So before we get into that, I want to talk. We usually talk about things that we've watched in pop culture over the last week. It's a little bit of a light segment this week, but this is our We Watch This segment. Devon, you and I have been watching the latest season of Only Murders in the Building. Have you watched the finale yet?
I didn't yet. I'm on a trip, if you can't tell from my foreign background. It's just a hotel room in Manchester.
So without seeing the finale, we won't get into spoilers, and without getting into spoilers, what have your thoughts been on this season?
I like it a lot. I don't think that it takes as many artistic risks as some of the other seasons, and I think that the last episode has a lot of heavy lifting to do, because I ended at where they discover who it is, but there's still a lot of questions that I'm worried they're not going to answer in an overly satisfying way, and maybe kicking to next season.
Okay.
What did you think of the finale?
The finale, they do leave some things open because things are not as connected to larger mysteries as they seem, as Eugene Levy, Zach Galifianakis, and Eva Mendes, or not, Eva Longoria make it seem.
Cool.
So they do leave some things open for next season. They set up next season in an interesting way. But I think this is one of the finale was one of the stronger episodes of this season. I think this season had a few weaker episodes for me. It's probably the weakest season, but I still loved it. And yeah, I'm curious. I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Oh,
so.
Interesting. So the ending wasn't just like Mabel finding another dead body in an apartment, and you're like, another murder in the building.
I mean, there's always going to be a murder in the building. So.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited that it's keeping it fresh enough. Because I remember the big hook this season is where like the gang's going to L.A. and they're in L.A. for like
an
5
episode.
minutes the first episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm curious to see. I'm really excited to see where it goes next season. So.
Is next season their last one, or are they kind of going until they can't?
I think they're going until they can't.
Good.
So.
I like that. I like them.
I do too. there's evidently Martin Short and Meryl Streep are actually a couple in real life from this show. So the reason I know this is because photos have leaked of them in public together. But like a few months ago at like the VMAs or one of the award shows, Selena Gomez whispered something to Taylor Swift and it went viral and people are like, what did she whisper? Yeah. And Selena Gomez responded like, oh, I was telling her about two of my friends that hooked up. And then pictures of the two of them started leaking. It's like, oh, she was telling Taylor Swift about Meryl Streep and Martin Short. Like,
oh, I love celebrity gossip.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Ryan, have you been watching the show at all?
Nope.
Okay.
Makes me sad. It's still one of my favorite shows. It's like the one show I'll try to watch week on week.
It definitely sounds good. It definitely sounds like it, whatever accolades it gets, it deserves. Those actors involved are top notch. Like, I get it. It's just, I have a lot in my entertainment space, and sports, especially because it's live, kind of takes priority when it's happening. So time that I would have probably spent watching, like starting to watch those shows, it's because like the Cardinals are playing or the Devils are playing, or I can finally watch a Bears game. And that's takes priority for me.
I almost asked something, but I was like, "Oh, that's too mean to ask." I was gonna ask
last Bears game. Yeah, that was
no. I was gonna ask how the Cardinals doing in the World Series.
Better than the Yankees are.
Good answer.
Yeah. All right. Outside of Only Murders in the Building, I also went to the cinema. To see an artistic cinema piece, which is Venom: The Last Dance, starring Tom Hardy, and Venom. So this is the final entry into the Sony Venom trilogy of Marvel films that they've done over there, and I want to read you guys my review off of Letterboxd for this film. Because I think that sums it up fairly well. I gave it 3 stars. I can't believe Venom 3 has better song and dance numbers than Joker 2, but I guess that's the world we live in. The sound... Yes, more entertaining for sure. Because I never thought that I'd see Mrs. Chen and Venom dancing to ABBA, but here we are.
Dancing Queen?
Yeah. And the song, like, I want you guys to try to guess what song they picked for Venom Horse.
The song they picked for Venom Horse?
Goodbye Horses.
No.
Oh shit, that's a really good one. Was that it?
No, it was not it. Devin, what's your guess?
Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball. I got it.
No, Queen, Don't Stop Me Now.
Really good song.
Yeah, the soundtrack. The soundtrack to this is probably one of the better Sony Marvel movie soundtracks since like the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. Because it's so stacked. They end it with that, like in the end credits they have that Post Malone song, I Had Some Help. Which is funny because the symbiotic relationship between Eddie and Venom. Yeah. It was very entertaining. I did a full review of this over on my other podcast, Brilliant But Lazy with Josh Howell, for Victims and Villains. So you can go check out our thoughts on the whole thing there. I liked it a bit more than Josh did, but it was a fun movie. It's probably one of the better entries in the Sony Marvel universe that we're going to get. And there's some things about it that piss me off, but
can I ask?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
So Sony does this thing where they cast an actor who was a villain in a Spider-Man film. And they cast him in this movie, put him in the trailers, making you think that he's playing that character. He's not.
What?
So my question is, why cast that actor? Like, why put Reese Ifans in here if you're not going to have him play Kirk Connors? Like, that's a bait and switch. And you can't tell me that it's because you don't know he was in another movie. You have the same producer. Avi Arad has produced every single Spider-Man movie. Amy Pascal has been producing all the Spider-Man movies. They both know. They both signed the checks. What's the deal?
It feels like it was a bait and switch. It feels like
Yeah.
it was what was his name? Ralph Boner from Marvel. It feels like it was that.
Yeah.
They're like, we're doing it. We're not doing it.
Nah, no. I'm still mad about Ralph Boner.
Yeah. Well, have you been keeping up with Agatha all along?
Yes.
Better? No? Okay. They tried.
No. If anything, it makes it worse.
Oh, okay. Was it? Can I ask another vague question?
Yes.
Was it Morbin time?
No.
The fact that wasn't a definitive no makes me really worried for this movie.
I mean, if it was supposed to be, I missed it. I didn't. There's nothing to connect us to anything else.
Oh, okay. Because wasn't there supposed to be like a moment in the end of one of the two movies where like Morbin was like, "Hey, you want to morb all over Spider-Man?" And Venom's like, "Yeah," and they morbed all over, and they like morbed into the sunset together.
So the movie begins with the post-credit scene from Spider-Man: No Way Home, where it's Eddie in the bar drinking with Danny Rojas. But they rewrite the scene because in the post-credit scene for Spider-Man, he's like, maybe I should go to New York and find this spider guy. And then they rewrite it like, maybe I should go to New York and like talk to my lawyer friend to try to get my name cleared. And I was like, what?
Oh.
So like
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh no.
Because Tom Holland was taking a break from acting, I guess. I don't know.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I was excited for like possibilities of crossovers there, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna happen.
Oh, I don't think it is. But Spider-Man 4 is happening.
I'm actually excited about that. I like that they left Spider-Man.
I've been excited for Spider-Man 4 in the past, and it never happened. So I'm keeping my hopes low. So
It's fair.
Yeah.
Ryan, are you gonna see Venom? You like the Venom movies.
Eventually, Kristen and I have had plans to go see like 3 different movies the past like 5 weeks, and it never happens.
Aw.
Simply because like we get to the weekend and we're just like, we don't want to do anything because we're having like just weeks at work, and so before we see anything like Venom, she really wants to see Smile 2, so we're probably going to be seeing that first beforehand. So
I never saw Smile 1,
Neither have I.
but I can do this.
it'll be happening soon, I think.
No, wasn't it?
All right,
We tried.
Yeah, we tried.
Yeah.
All right. That does it for...
When you guys finally see the movie, you'll understand why I'm just meh whenever you guys do it.
Alright.
All right. Well, let's move on to today's main topic, the 2024 film, The First Omen, Ryan's pick. So, Ryan, I'm going to hand the show over to you.
Okay, so like Alan said, this week's pick is The First Omen that was made in 2024, not the original Omen movie that came out in the 70s. It is a film that is technically not a prequel. It's kind of a reboot. I've been trying to find word on if it's like a soft reboot, a complete reboot, and I can't really find anything besides just it's kind of a reboot, it's kind of a prequel, but we're going to discuss why that's crap and why I like this movie. So have any of you guys seen the original Omen movies, or no?
I've seen the original Omen movie, and I've seen the remake of it with, what's her name, Julia Stiles, I think.
Okay. Alan, have you seen any of them?
Nope.
Okay. So, going into this movie, one, did you guys know that this even existed? And your history with, like, the franchise? Well, if you didn't know it existed, then... anyway, whatever. First impressions, go. First impressions.
I knew I know enough about the Omen to be like Damien, priests, all that. But I've never seen it. And then like looking on IMDb, I was like, okay, I think he's supposed to be the priest from the original film, and I was right. And then I saw the picture of Gregory Peck. I was like, oh hey, Atticus.
Hey, my dog.
And yeah. But yeah, I don't pay attention to horror movies. I knew this was out. I didn't realize it was connected in any way because I'm not a big horror guy. Like, but yeah, that's where I was going into it.
Okay.
So I was vaguely aware that this movie was out, and had made the loosest of plans to go see it. But it's one of those movies that if I go watch it in the theater, it's on my own. So I decided to just wait until a situation like this to watch it. My history with the thing is, I like I said, I watched the first two. I didn't know there were more than just the one and then the remake. So if there's like the Omen to his teenage years, I haven't seen that. But I have read Terry Pratchett's Good Omens, and this made me really want to. Terry Pratchett and no one else, by the way. Good Omens. And I really want to watch it now or read it again because a lot of it echoes the things that were in here, and I forgot how closely. But no, I'll talk about my feelings later.
Okay. So to get on the whole thing about, I wanted to get this out of the way because there is some controversy about this film. So when this thing first came out, people were thinking that a lot of fans were kind of assuming that this was going to be kind of like a prequel to the first movie. Because they do some digging up in the first movie, like the characters do some research, you get kind of the backstory, but you don't see like how all of that unfolded. So people were expecting this to happen. Some major things we'll get into later with the storyline, but there are some obvious changes between the original and this one that when Kristen and I went to rewatch the original Omen, because it had been years, there were some glaring differences where it's like, this can't be a prequel like I thought it was going to be, because one, this movie's set in 1971 and the original is set in like 1970. So like the events don't even line up. So there's that. But to get away from that, and we're going to touch on those things as we get through the storyline. What did you guys think of the setting of Rome? Because they actually filmed in Rome, part of this movie, and they did one of the best things that they did to set the world was that there was actually protests and rioting going on in Rome during this time period. So I love the fact that they actually incorporated that into the movie. So what did you guys think of just like the setting and like the aura feeling of the film? Yeah. Why did that pop up?
I think it worked well. Like it really felt like Rome, and it felt like the 70s. I think part of that's just Bill Nighy, like just being ageless. Like you can throw him in any time period and it works. Giant squid or not. But like it's like when all your costumes are like habits, like it's kind of easy to be like 70s. Like okay, like
okay.
Yeah.
I love Rome as a place. I think it's so cool, and it was so cool to see it again. I think my favorite bit of it, in terms of like the setting, just is the reliance on like Vatican imagery and like spooky like Rome imagery a lot in it, because like they do a very good job in some forms of pop culture of making like the Vatican and the Catholic Church like very mysterious. And this feels like something that it could very well be, right? Like this could be actually hidden underneath Rome somewhere. So like I thought it was cool, and I thought it added to it a lot.
Okay. Yeah, and that's my my view on it is kind of like a halfers for like both of you guys. One, like it is very easy to do like a Catholic story in like any time era post like 1890, because usually the like Alan said, the habits, the priests like clothing doesn't change. So like you could just have a Catholic church and just put people in costumes, and you could put any year you wanted for the past 130 years, and it would work. Like there's no like time frame there. And there's just something about like Rome that stands out. It's kind of like Paris or New York. Like it has like a feeling all to itself visually, which I really like. And to me, it's one of the biggest characters inside the whole movie because it has to do with like the history of the church and everything in it. It has to do with the history of the church in Rome in a sense. One of the actors I was surprised to see in this was Charles Dance. I think I got that last name right at the beginning. Which one, they established that they got a actor who does a tremendous job of playing Father Brandon, that is in the original a character that's in the original movies, and he did an excellent job portraying that character. But I loved that interaction between him and that other actor I mentioned, because if you don't know the storyline, you're like, okay, what's so horrible that this Catholic priest doesn't want to talk about it? And then his scene with the post, which is a callback to a death in the original movie, with a post falling from the top of the church. And it really sets you up for how this movie is a good balance, for me anyway, between psychological horror and graphic horror. Because that slice of brain pie that falls out, or brain cake that falls out of the back of his head, is really, really good looking. I mean, when it comes to visual effects, that was really great.
You have to put it like brain cake.
Did you guys have any like reaction to that at all? Like, were you expecting?
I'm having I'm with Devin. I'm having a bigger reaction you calling it brain cake than anything.
No, I mean, it looked like
is it brain or is it cake? Which is it? Like,
well, I mean, it's literally, the post makes a perfect it's like
it's a wedge.
If you take a cake, it's a wedge. It's a wedge shape. Like, it takes out a cake slice type thing out of the back of the guy's head. I wasn't expecting to see that.
He lost at Trivial Pursuit.
That was his history wedge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think like, as a rule, I will never not be freaked out by the character's dead but they haven't realized it trope. They do that in what is it, in Breaking Bad, where like the guy comes out in like a justice tie, and then you like find out it genuinely freaks me out.
Yeah, and so this had that reaction to you?
Oh,
like this
100%,
did that to
yeah.
you? Okay.
And the decision to like, the only blood you see on him is like on the front two like eye teeth, and that's it. Like, it wasn't that bloody. All you saw was a bit of brain, but boy was it effective.
Yeah. Alan, how was your reaction to it? Because I know gore stuff is something that like either you're just like meh or about. Like, which one was that for you?
So the gore in this whole movie for me was meh. Because I'm more freaked out by the whole religious cult thing, and like anything like the religious horror is like the horror that I don't go near, because growing up Catholic, like that shit scares me.
I love the religious horror in this movie. I love the there's a twist at the end that I'm sure we'll talk about at the end, about like why this whole movie is happening, that I love.
Yeah, and that's something we are going to touch on.
Okay. Can we touch on that now? Because
sure, if you want.
I think I know what you guys are talking about a twist, but I'm like, I saw that coming a mile away.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, twist. Yeah, I'm kind of confused. I want to narrow this down because it's not a twist, because they talk about it right at the beginning of the movie, I think.
Okay.
what you're talking about. Alan, what is it?
No, I'm curious what Devin thinks the twist is in this.
Okay.
All right, so I thought the twist in this movie was that the reason that they wanted to make the Antichrist was specifically because they wanted to convert more people to the church.
Yeah, that was at the very beginning. It's at the very beginning.
No, so I read it as like there's a secret group inside of a group, and the group inside of a group just sure loves the devil and wishes there was more of him, and that's what I thought it was. I didn't at any point catch. We just need to convert more people to the church.
Okay. So at the very beginning, they show her like walking through the terminal after the scene of the priest dying. She's walking through the terminal. She gets picked up. She hugs her, the cardinal or whatever he is. I think it's a cardinal because of the costume, because of the red. Yeah. But actually, I can just look that up right now.
Yeah.
Because I have it over.
Well, like
Father Cardinal. Yeah, Cardinal. I was right. Good. Yay! My Catholic upbringing is still in my brain. So the they hug and they do their thing, and then as they're driving to the orphanage or to the girls' school / orphanage hospital thing, they get stopped by one of the protests, and the guy's explaining about how there's some unsettledness. It's mainly the workers fighting for union rights, and that's fine and everything, but it's also giving the college students a reason to rebel against norms. And he's talking about like secularism, and there's people leaving the church in droves, and all of this other stuff, and our biggest mission right now is to bring people back to Christ. Like, he has that conversation right at the beginning of the movie with her in the back of the car. And that's it. That's why they're doing it.
No, he was clearly talking about the little chibi anime thing that the Catholic Church just made to help convert more people. Or Buddy Christ, he was clearly talking about that. I didn't connect it. Connect the thing.
Real quick on that note, did you see Kevin Smith called out the church for that? He's like, 20 years later, they're just stealing from Dogma. So,
but no,
all right.
Make that connection, Ryan.
So Ryan, what twist do you think he was thinking of? Like, what did you
know?
Okay. I thought you thought that.
Because to me, there's no twist in it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I thought you thought the twist was that she was the First Omen.
So the movie had me going back and forth from that almost the entire time, because I was along for this movie's ride. Where like the second I saw her, I was like, it's gonna be her. She's gonna be the mama. And then as the movie went on, and like you saw like the mark inside the other lady's mouth, I'm like, oh, is this just like a bystander that like dies in the end?
Mm-hmm.
And like I was actually because she was like, I saw weird things when I was a kid, and I'm like, are they conflating obvious symptoms of schizophrenia with the sign that they've seen? But then she kept seeing things that were too similar.
Yeah.
So I was like, either I'm going to be mad at this movie because it's portraying schizophrenia in a really weird way, or they're going to dump something on me at the end. And they did that, and I thought that was cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Ryan, when you watched it, did you know that it was going to be her?
I was going back and forth on it.
Okay.
Because at first, before you meet the girl, like the 14, 13-year-old girl, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, she's the one that's on the poster. She's the main character of this, so it's probably going to be following her events through this. But then you see the stuff that's going on with the other girl. You have deaths that happen to other characters around both of them. So it's like it could be either one of them, which was a few of these deaths are callbacks to deaths that are in the first and second movie. And it wasn't until like I would say about 5 minutes before the reveal that I was like, okay, no, this is definitely the main character. It's not the little girl. But yeah, but that's like I said before. Oh, there's no twist in this movie. I said like 4 minutes ago. Like, no, there is, and it's that because they try to make you guess if it's going to be the little girl or if it's going to be her, the one that this is happening to.
I do appreciate that the church was like, we're hedging our bets. Multiple mommies. I also wanted to know if at any point the movie thought that the twist of your son's name is Damien and then the blah that happened in the background, if anyone was going to be like, oh, it's that movie? Because like I knew that like straight away.
Well, there's got to be people out there that have never heard of the original ones. And so, like, they're like, oh, Damien, okay. And then they finally get, like, and they're experiencing that word pun for the first time.
So if people go into this not knowing about the original Omen film, does that twist do anything then, though? Like, because it's just like, his name's Damien, black screen title card. Like, and then it's kind of just like, okay, what does that mean? Like, I at least knew who Damien was. Like, if people go into this not knowing that this is connected to other films, then that's kind of a waste of a moment.
I think it's the same experience anyone who has no experience with comic books watching the first original Marvel films after Iron Man. It's the same thing.
Star Trek Into Darkness when Benedict Cumberbatch goes, my name is Khan, and nobody knew what Khan was in universe. Like, that reveal was for the audience, and if you didn't see Wrath of Khan or know that it existed, that was a weird way to deliver that line.
Yeah. But if you're in the audience, they spent months saying, he's not Khan, he's not Khan, he's not Khan, he's Khan. Spoilers.
Did they spend months before this movie going, it's a different Omen, it's a whole other thing, don't worry about it. Something else.
That's something I want to talk to you guys about. So I'm going to do a bit of spoilers here to have to explain this. So in the original Omen movie, Damien is born to be the Antichrist. Damien has to be born by a jackal. Like, he is the son birthed of a jackal. That's the original Omen movie. They legit find his mother's tomb and raise up the lid, and there is a skeleton of a jackal in the tomb in the original Omen movie. Obviously, that's not what happened in this movie. It's the reverse in this movie.
I mean, does it have to be his mother that's in the grave? It could be his father, right?
No, they explicitly say that it's the mother in the original Omen movie. Remember, the original Omen movie takes place in 1970. This one takes place in 1971. The events don't line up.
The original came out in 1976.
Well, the set, not the movie is set.
Okay.
Time-wise, it is set in 1970.
Okay.
I got it, Ryan. I got it. Here's what happened:
I'm not trying to connect them. I'm not.
No, I'm doing it.
But okay.
The church was so embarrassed that they botched killing a single heavily medicated woman that they changed the scripture in the background quick, and they were like, it's a jackal, not a woman. And they like buried a dog, and that's what you found. And they're just way too embarrassed to talk about other woman that they clearly know is alive and the apparently twin daughter that I want to talk about later.
That is one weird dog skull, but anyway. So there are a decent amount of changes between the first Omen, this movie, and the original Omen. Because I originally thought when this thing was coming out that it was a prequel. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be really cool. Like, this is going to be really... And that's one of those... And like, that was one of the reasons why I was kind of expecting more at the end of this. Because, like, Damien's mom's a jackal, as far as I was concerned. Not a human. But then they kind of reversed it when they showed that part. I'm like, okay, so they're reversing this. So this is something different now. And, yeah, so that's one major thing. I'm not going to really touch on the other ones because I do want people to somewhat I want people to be interested enough to watch the other movies, and I don't want to give them everything. But like that's one major plot point that's different between this movie and the original Omen, and supposedly they are making a sequel to this one. So I'm hoping this kind of turns into like a modern retelling of the Omen movies. Yeah. So this movie,
my
Yes?
biggest problem with that, and like I'm not going to argue with your headcanon because you make good points. My biggest problem with that is like they show a picture of Gregory Peck. Like it's clearly Gregory Peck. This is meant to be a prequel to that film. So it'd be like showing, oh man, I can't even think of another example.
Is it like doing a prequel to Mrs. Doubtfire and being like, I found the father, and it's a picture of Robin Williams, and they're like, we're doing a sequel to this too.
Yeah.
And you're like, how are you gonna do that? I really hope they don't AI Gregory Peck into the next movie. I also, and this is what I wanted to talk about, and if they do a next movie, I really hope it's not like Damien is the bad one, and this other one that we had named, the other twin that we named Angelica,
Yeah.
is the good one.
well, I've watched, I rewatched The Omen and The Omen 2, and about halfway through Omen Final Conflict, between watching, this on Saturday, to today. And that's another thing that, as far as I could tell, is new, at the fact that there's like a twin sister. Because that's never mentioned in the 2.5 movies that I've watched so far of the original. But there was also, I read an interview with the director, I believe a writer of this one, and she was saying how she did change a few things in it, to kind of like tell a different story. And that's where the term and there were some other things that she was bringing up, and that's why I'm saying kind of like a soft reboot, because there's aspects of the original movies in this, like, Alan mentioned, like with Gregory Peck, but then they also change major plot points with like the mom and the dad, and like what exactly that means, for the storyline.
Well, it makes the story less about the literal birth of the Antichrist and more about the subjugation of women in the Catholic Church and in society in general. I mean, that was kind of the point of it, right? Like, that's why they were in.
That's
in
what
all
she was
girls.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's very clear, and she does an incredible job because literally every single woman in this movie is an object or a tool of some sort. And men don't show up much, and when they do, they are clearly more dominant than this whole whole group of gaggle of nuns, parliament of nuns. What's a group of nuns?
A whoopee.
A whoopee of nuns. Yeah.
So, a question I wanted to ask you guys: what was the most visually disturbing scene of this movie for you, and what was the most the most disturbing psychological for you, like one and the other? So whoever wants to go first.
These are easy for me.
Go for it.
And Alan, I'm going to ask you a question about what my most visually disturbing was. I messaged Ryan as soon as I saw it, and messaged him, Manos, Hands of Fate. What scene was the most visually disturbing for me? For me, it was the birthing sequence.
Oh,
when
okay.
You got a full bore down the center with a demon hand coming straight out.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
not expecting that. It was not on my bingo card for this movie.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either.
Yeah, psychologically disturbing was the first scare where her habit turns into like a nun that like creepy sneaks around. And I liked it because it comes at the point in every horror movie where that's a cat on the windowsill that's going to make you do a little jump scare, and then we go, haha, silly movie, that wasn't a scary thing. But it actually was a scary thing, so good job, movie.
For me, the scariest thing was I watched this on my projector with my AirPods in because I had laundry going. So like all the whispers were like very creepy because you could not understand what they were saying because I think half of it was in Italian, half of it was just so soft. So that was like the scariest thing. Visually though, like the big thing for me was when she gives birth and like the like in the flashbacks to like the jackal with her and like I'm hoping that's his tongue.
Fair.
But yeah.
Those scenes were intense. They were hard.
Yeah.
What were yours, Ryan? Oh, I didn't mean that. That's an adjective. Sorry.
No. Oh dear. Okay. So, psychological for me, it is honestly it's when the Margaret, her friend, her like roommate, initiate gets her habit. Simply because, one, I was in the Catholic Church enough to have had initiates work at the daycare and preschool that I went to as a very young child. And I remember, and of course being, my dad was Catholic and he went to a Catholic high school. The whole like initiate thing of a nun is kind of a big deal. And so with her walking down in like a full-blown wedding dress, for me is like, this doesn't seem right. And I even Googled it. Like it drove me to Google and I couldn't find any solid like thing of any countries like nuns being like, yeah, they wear legit wedding dresses to actually like do this. And that whole like ceremony they did, knowing the context of like, okay, some of these people are involved in something nefarious that's not right and they're doing this big deal with it. And there was just, that part just made me unsettled a little bit. And then visually, the spider on her eyelashes and it crawling down her face.
Oh yeah.
When she wakes up in the morning from her night out at the at the bar. I have to say, visually too, that scene with her hair all spread out like that. That's
Very
three
cool.
times they do that in that movie where they show her hair spread out like in a circle. And I was trying to find meaning behind that, and the only thing I can think of is it might have been a callback to a lot of like early religious paintings where they have like the halo around like around the head, but because she's like the daughter, like the mother of the Antichrist and like the daughter of the devil, it's not a halo, it's like wiry hair instead. Like that's what I was like.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like thinking along those lines.
It's widely.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about nuns?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm probably wrong, but I thought that being a nun meant that you were married to Jesus.
In a
God,
sense,
Jesus.
yeah.
In a sense.
The Holy Spirit, yeah.
Was that? So then, that's how I read the wedding dress. Was she was going to her wedding. I also read it as one of those marriages of necessity, and they were just driving that metaphor home with the dress. One of those like, she doesn't really have free will in who she gets married to. Who she's getting married to doesn't match the lifestyle that she's chosen for herself, but this has to happen. And I thought it was echoing stuff like that, but for me, it could have just been the filmmaker going, she's marrying Jesus, look at her go.
Yeah.
Well, that, and you got the fact that she tells her story about how she was kicked out of the house at 16.
Yeah.
And she had nowhere to go, and like the nunnery was taking people. It was a war, it was a place with a bed, and they took care of you. So I could definitely see that. One thing I wanted to touch on was I knew that scene would come up with the woman giving birth and the demon hand coming out of it. one of the scenes that almost made my most disturbing scene was when she was given like the laughing gas when she was
Yeah.
going through the pain of giving birth, and it was just like complete psycho face for like a good solid 30 seconds on the screen. That whole scene they had to take back to the ratings board 5 times to get this movie marked down from NC-17 to R. So that whole sequence of like her like fighting the stirrups and getting the gas and having the hand reach out, they cut 15 seconds off, and it was just enough for them to get an R and not an NC-17 rating, because the initial scene was like 15 seconds longer and apparently a lot more graphic.
Whoa. I have a thought about the scene. That was especially after the birthing scene where she's like, "Can I hold the baby?" I'm like, she's gonna stab the baby. I don't want her to stab the baby. But
you do want, because of what the baby is.
And that whole part
Yeah.
messed me up. It was like, I've had people have this reaction to like Dexter, when like the cop catches Dexter and technically you should be cheering because it's a serial killer, the cop catches him. Like, I
Yeah.
had so many conflicted emotions during it. Like, that scene actually got to me. Like, I was like on the edge of my seat. Like, is she gonna do this? Technically she should, but don't.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another aspect of this movie.
Stressful.
And that's why I like the Omen movies, because they really bring up, how many, I'm just gonna say it, how many of us have had people like, someone's stoner older brother, like back in like the 90s and early 2000s, or older sibling to a friend or someone, and do the whole like, man, if I could go back in time, would you kill Hitler? Like kill Hitler as like an infant, like type thing. Like that's a popular question, and like this kind of brings that narrative forward. And it's like, would you? Like, it's a child,
horrible baby.
Yeah, and that's one of the aspects of these movies that I like. Like, it brings that whole like thought, forward of like, would you or would you not? And that's something that Omen 2 and 3 of the original series explores. Which Sam Neill plays adult Damien in the third one.
They get to the point where he's an adult?
Yeah.
I might have to
watch the final conflict.
Are they actually good?
The second one's good. The second one was actually the first Omen movie I ever watched, and it was just by accident. It was on like HBO one night when I was in middle school, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And the third one I've only seen all the way through once when I was in high school. Other than that, I've tried to watch it like 2 other times, including yesterday, and each time it was because I was watching all 3 of them at once, and I just couldn't stay awake.
Too much of a...
Yeah, it was too much of a push. But I like Sam Neill's. But I mean, I like Sam Neill in it. So I mean, there's that. So the NC-17 rating thing. An odd note before we get into anything else you guys want to talk about. You know how we always talk about like setting up like a time period and like on external shots, you've got to get cars right and like other things right to kind of like fix, it's like fit in the time period. The further we get away from like the 70s and the 80s and the 60s, is in the 60s, something weird is happening, and I've been noticing this for the past couple of years, is that Hollywood or the production company will put out a call for extras and be like, look, if you have a classic car from like 1961 to like 1968 or whatever, show up at this lot so we can review your car to see if we want to use it in like the background. The longer we get from these time periods, the more specialized and unique the cars that still exist are. So being the somewhat car guy, in the scene where Father Brennan meets Margaret in like the square when they're like sitting where he meets her for the first time and does like the whole creepy like, I'll tell you more, come to my hotel room. And like, first off, no. Like that type of deal. But when you look behind them, like the square's full of people, it shows that people have parked their cars in the background because it was kind of used as like a parking lot. When you pause and look at those vehicles, more than half of them were like special edition sport models that they only made like 500 or 200 of. And it's one of those things where it's like, if this was actually 1970, you would be lucky to find even one of those in the whole of Rome. You're not going to find 15 of them in a parking lot. And it's something that I've noticed in other movies too, where it's like, where it's like the longer we get from these time periods, the more specialized the cars are, because if they're not specialized, people don't want to put the money in them to like restore them. So like you're not going to get like a just a base model station wagon in the background anymore.
I wouldn't have known. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's just something I've noticed. But yeah, so I wanted to do this for Halloween because this was probably the most disturbing movie that I think that I had seen this year so far. And there's a ton of other scenes in this. I highly recommend it, even if you're a fan of the Omen movies and you heard that like there's like conflicted narratives in this with the first one. I would still recommend watching it and just watching it as its own thing, as like someone else's interpretation of it.
I'm very interested to see the original now that I've seen this one, because I've been reading some stuff online here, and there are some continuity things that are different, but I think to have to like stick to the canon of that, you got to be a little bit flexible if you're going to try to tell your own story. And I think this is just flexible enough that it works. So I'm probably going to watch The Omen here this weekend.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. No,
I don't know how it is.
That's I'm actually really excited about that because the original Omen movie is honestly really good, and I feel like it gets slept on because people like to talk about horror and they go straight to like the slasher movies of the 80s, or they go to like the crazy like original gore movies of the 70s where it was like Technicolor, and the Omen just kind of gets swept under the rug, and I feel like it gets kind of overlooked when it shouldn't because it's good, and I feel that way about the second Omen too, like. The one scene that'll always stick with me is Damien, as an older kid, is starting to like come into his abilities, and he's at a military academy, and they're doing like history, and he's does something to make the history teacher mad, and the history teacher does the classic 70s teacher thing where he calls the student up to like belittle them, to make fun of them and at the front of class. And he just starts asking names of like dates of births and the time of battles. And Damien's like, as soon as the teacher asks, Damien gives him a year. And the teacher's like struggling to think. And it goes on for maybe like 30 seconds. And finally, like someone comes over and like pulls Damien out of class and it's like, you've got to stop. Like, you can't be telling people who, it's like, you can't be showing off. People can't know who you are yet. You've got to stop. And Damien's like, but I don't, what do you mean who I am? I just knew the answers, so I was saying it. Like, The Omen 2 was good for also kind of like a youth self-discovery of kind of like who you are. Like, even though it's the narrative of like being the Antichrist, it's still kind of cool seeing this like 12-year-old kid coming in and learning about his heritage and like who he's going to be. Like, it's still that type of a story, but it's kind of wrapped up in this nice little Armageddon shell. It's a nice little...
The best kind of shell.
Yeah. But yeah, so I recommend most of the Omen movies. Did you guys have anything you wanted to discuss or talk about?
I think we got everything for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love this movie. This was a great watch. Thanks, Ryan.
You are welcome. I'm very happy that this is making you watch the first one.
I mean, I absolutely hate the kind of horror it is, but I am intrigued now. And it made me realize I've never seen the original Omen, so... yeah. now we're to the point of the show where we talk about what we're going to do next week. We're going to take a break next week. Devon is traveling into town. So the next time that you see us, we will all be in the same room, which happens once a year. So we're going to take full advantage of that and celebrate our 300th episode. We've passed it, I think, but we haven't had a chance to celebrate it yet. So we're going to do something special the following week. We don't know what that is yet. We're still figuring that out.
It'll be cool.
We will be planning that next week. In the meantime, if you're watching this, you can hear my voice. Get out and vote. And when you get to the polls, tell them Captain America sent you. Like, part of me after this wants to just like redo the scene from Homecoming with like a chair and be like, "So you're registered to vote." But yeah, get out to vote next week. And yeah, that's all I've got. Yeah,
I'll miss you. I can't speak for them. I'll miss you.
yes, but we'll be back the following week. Following week with something fun and exciting. So make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to find out what that is. I know Devon and I will be hanging out next Tuesday for a bit. Yeah. So stay tuned. We got some exciting things planned for you. We just don't know what they are yet. So in the meantime, for You Have to Watch This podcast, I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devon.
And I could do this all day.